Hello, hello, hello. You're watching the Jack and Joe show, sponsored by BetMate. Joe Sansom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Feels nice that there's another match to look forward to just around the corner, and then another one on the weekend. So very excited. What about you?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I suppose this run of form we've been on. I would have liked more points from what we've got in our last three, but we have an opportunity to pick up a maximum of 6 points in the next couple of games. And let's look back on Saturday because I'll tell you what, it was a really interesting game of football. And actually, from a neutral's point of view, of course, we're not. It was a terrific game of football. Just like
Yeah,
the one last season at the Cottage, the 1-1 draw. This was a 2-2 draw. And Joe, we got off to the worst possible start. And I was fuming. I bet you were fuming.
yeah, I was fuming. It's a really crap goal to concede, and it's just. I was speaking to my dad about this, and we both agreed if this was the 30th minute of the game, I don't think we'd have let in this goal when we're a bit more switched on. But that's not really acceptable, to be completely honest. Everyone was ball watching. Bobby Reed caught out initially with the ball over the top, which did deflect. It must be pointed out. I think it goes off Reed, actually. Bobby Reed, Harrison Reed, that is, over to Bobby Reed. Um, and then when Billing goes to put the ball back into the area after receiving it from Solanke, there's no danger. There's him in the box, Solanke. There's another player at the edge of the box. Can't remember who off the top of my head. But there's players there. But everyone looks at the ball and no one looks at Solanke. So that's on Reed. That's on Pereira. That's on Diop. That's on Ream. There's no one player. It's rubbish from all of them, and really disappointing start. What I would say is I think we then responded really, really well, and I think this has gone under the radar a bit because of what happened with obviously their second goal, and the way we finished the half. But for the first, I would say, 25 minutes of the half, we were the better team aside from that one chance. They didn't go forward again until after we'd scored. Obviously, it's disappointing that after Diop scored, we dropped off again. But I do think that we were the better team for the first half of the half. The disappointment, Jack, was once we scored, obviously, great to score from a corner again. Happy days. Don't think we should touch on that for too much because just Issa Diop scores goals. The second goal,
Oh, it's
which
so easy.
again, I thought was really, really too easy.
Mm. Way too casual. And we're just sort of stagnant in our defence. And when that ball gets played across to Jefferson Lerma, it's a nice finish, whatever. No one's close to closing him down.
Yeah,
It's all very casual. It's all very passive. And actually, I will admit, I haven't really watched the full highlights back. I've watched bits and pieces of it. I think I've watched Match of the Day, but I haven't watched it like fully back, Gentleman Gym, stuff like that. But it's really passive. And like Harrison Reed sort of looking around like, that's
yeah.
such an easy goal to concede. Yeah, it just, and the fact it came 5 minutes after we equalised, and the mood was, I think we can go on and win this now at 1-1, and then to
Yeah.
go 2-1 behind straight away, such an easy, lazy goal to concede. Sort of strokes it into the net, does Jefferson Lerma, and then of course Leno makes a really good save to prevent it from going to 3-1. He had a great game again, Burnt Leno. But for me, that's probably one of the most frustrating goals we've conceded this season with Højbjerg at Spurs.
Yeah.
So simple and just stuff that you don't really expect to see from a Premier League team at this level,
No,
really.
it was giving me worrying flashbacks. Not to the Parker team actually, more to um, the Djukanovic, the Ranieri, and then I guess the Scott Parker at the end
Yeah.
team. Just conceding goals out of nothing both times. In that first half, until that point, that second goal, I think Bournemouth had two meaningful attacks, and they both led to goals. They then went on to perform really well for the rest of the half. And I must point out, I was impressed with Bournemouth. I thought that their game plan was worked. On the other day, they could have walked away with all 3 points. I've seen a lot of people talking about how we were really good in the second half, but I can't remember many clear-cut chances at all throughout the entire game. We never got in behind them once. And and they were just heading away everything that came into their box. And I thought they performed really well defensively in that second half. There was never a moment when I thought, this is it, we're going to score. It wasn't relentless pressure in terms of Bournemouth clinging on. It was controlled and measured from us without causing too many problems, which again was not something that we're used to seeing from Marco Silva team. We're normally the ones that are, a bit more direct, just getting the goal. Really disappointing result, but one that I think was a fair result, and one that I won't be too dissatisfied with if we can get the 3 points on Thursday, which we'll come on to talk to in a bit. Jack, I think we need to talk about the subs that were made at half time.
Okay.
Harrison Reed off, who I think we both agree had one of his poorest showings, very rare for him. Tom Cairney on. Dan James off, who was quite, without being rude, pretty anonymous again. And Willian on. Firstly, what were your thoughts at halftime when they were made? And then what were your thoughts at full time in terms of the impact they made to the game?
Well, at half time, I was sort of drowning my sorrows in a steak and ale pie,
Nice.
which I only just finished as soon as the, the second half started. But when I saw Willian come on, I didn't actually catch who came off, and I just said, "Oh, please please be Dan James." And I looked around the pitch, and I was like, "Yeah, he's not on the pitch. That's good." James was terrible.
Yeah.
Had nothing. And actually, to be fair, all of our play was basically coming down the left-hand side. But even when it was going right, not good enough for me. Not good enough.
No.
And I sort of was like, why are we bringing off Harrison Reed? He's such a mainstay in this team. And then I realised, you know what? If we need a bit more attacking impetus, Tom Cairney's going to give that. And Tom Cairney, goodness me, took the game by the scruff of the neck, really, sort of stuff. He was magnificent. And actually, I think a lot of fans have said this on Twitter as well. Willian was really good. Really good. And it was Willian and TC who were the only players who I felt like something was going to come, a chance was going to come from. Maybe Harry Wilson when he came on as well. He looked okay. But with Paulinho sitting and TC venturing forward, and a lot of our chances were coming down, I believe the left where Willian was and then obviously Mitrovic, who wasn't quite 100%. I was really impressed, really encouraging, and it bodes the question now: what is our strongest three behind the striker? Obviously, you've got Pereira, and we normally start either Neeskens Cabano, and obviously now Harry Wilson's back, Dan James has played, Willian's played. What's our strongest three? What would you say?
It's a weird one because my answer this week is probably different to what I'd have given you last week. But I think now Willian goes straight in. I think Willian on either side. I know that he played on the right-hand side at Nottingham Forest. He was on the left when he came on the other day, once Harry Wilson came on. I think Willian's got to be in there. I think it will be Harry Wilson on the other side, but I don't think it is right now, because even though I thought he was okay when he came on, I think you can tell he's not completely back to full fitness and back to his best. So as of right now, I'd say Bobby Reid on the other side when he's allowed to play there, when he's not fulfilling his current right back duties. But I would want Bobby Reid on the right, Willian on the left. Shout for Cabano as well, who I thought did okay again. But Dan James is currently at the bottom of the list for me. And he's someone that I would like to have on the bench, and someone that, if we're trying to play on the counter-attack, trying to stretch a game, I thought that worked really well against Nottingham Forest, for example. It was really great way to relieve pressure, even if a goal didn't lead from it. We could just play balls down and he'd win it every time against Joe Worrell. But at the moment, I'd say Bobby Reid and Willian, and I would be very annoyed if Willian doesn't start on Thursday. Cairney's a weird one because I came out of the game and I was saying, yeah, Cairney's got to start on Thursday. But the more I think about it, I don't know if he actually should. And my reasoning for that is that the game was perfect for Cairney. The conditions of the game state when he came on, in terms of Bournemouth sitting back, loads of space, loads of time on the ball, no real defensive actions needed from him. Paulinho could cover, they weren't throwing men forward. Against Villa, when the game starts at 0-0 and hopefully doesn't end up 0-1 after 1 minute again, I don't know if this is the game for Tom Cairney to start. I think that Harrison Reed has to be in there, even though he was poor the other day. So then the case comes, do you keep Pereira in? I think you have to. Do you move Pereira wide to accommodate Kearney, but then who gets dropped? It's very difficult. But I would say Willian is a certainty for me, has to come in. I would also say, and I'm interested to get your opinion, that Diop should stay in as well. I was impressed with him. I thought that he was always on the front foot. I thought that he was very good at moving us forward. He won all his duels. He won all his tackles. Defensively, I don't think he was completely at fault for the first goal. I think that was a combined lack of effort from the team. And for the second goal, I don't think you can put that on him. So I thought he was good, but I'd like to get your opinion.
Diop was very good. There was a lot of playing out for the back from Leno and Diop, and that got the crowd quite nervous. But it was never a situation where Diop was going to lose the ball. He just looked a little bit jittery on the ball, but luckily the press from Bournemouth wasn't so intense that it put him under any significant amount of pressure to lose the ball. And it begs the question now, are we going to see Diop keep his place with Ream? Or are we going to see Tosin come back in for Diop? We're going to see Tosin come in for Ream. And you can sort of make a case for all three combinations.
Yeah.
But I don't know which one to go with. Is it harsh dropping Ream again? Not again, but like, is it harsh just dropping Ream and bringing Tosin and Diop and see how they play against Villa? Or do we keep Ream because he hasn't really put a foot wrong, albeit maybe the West Ham third goal? And also, it must be said, we're really missing Kenny Tete.
Yeah, we are. We really are. And it's getting to the point where second half, I thought Bobby Reid did well at right back, but first half, I think he really struggled and they targeted him. Balls over to Billing and Solanke on that side constantly. I wouldn't be opposed to giving Mbabu a go on Thursday if Tete's not back. I wasn't impressed with him against Newcastle at all, but I sort of feel, he is a right back. You've got to give him a chance to atone for that day. He can't just be cast aside forever. And we're playing Bobby Reid out of position. He's not doing wonders there. He's doing as well as I think he can. But we've got a right back on the bench. I think this is the time to put him back in. Especially as I'd like to see Bobby Reid further forward, where I think he's far more effective. Missing Tete so much, and that first goal doesn't happen if Tete's there. In answer to your question on Diop, Tosin, Ream, that sort of situation, I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to sticking with Diop and Ream. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Tosin come in for Ream. I don't want to see Diop dropped at this moment in time. I think that would be pointless. But I wouldn't be overly upset with either option on Thursday. If it was me in charge, I'd go with Diop and Tosin. And my reasoning for that is that I thought Ream had a couple of shaky moments, especially in that second half where I believe it was Solanke sort of got the wrong side of him and had their only effort on goal. There was a few times when Ream was a bit too slow for me on Saturday, which is rare.
He did make a crucial tackle.
He did, and that was fantastic, by the way. Really fantastic tackle, great recovery. I like Diop and Tosin against Forest, so I'd be keen to see that again. But yeah.
Final question on Bournemouth before we move on. 2 penalties. One was given, one was not. Ream on Fredericks. Nice to see Fredericks back at Craven Cottage. And then the Lerma one. Gary O'Neill made a huge point about this penalty. He said it in every single post-match interview he did about how Mitrovic... He basically says that Mitrovic initiates the foul and the referee buys it. For me, I don't really know. It's 6 of one, half dozen the other. And the Ream one, because when I saw it on the monitor, I was like, uh-oh, that's going to be a penalty. And I was quite relieved to see it wasn't given.
At the time, I was fuming with that Ream and Fredericks one because of the way he threw himself to the ground. When you look at the replay, as you just said, Ream's really silly, taking a stupid risk, and that's one of the reasons that I'd like to see Tosin come in, because that would have been going 2-1 down at that stage if they'd got and scored the penalty. I think it was really stupid from Ream. I think we got a tiny bit lucky. I don't think it was like a definite penalty because of the way that Fredericks went down and clearly was looking for some sort of contact, but Ream shouldn't have put, that even in contention for a decision. For our penalty, I think that it's quite simple. If these are given every week to and against us for that sort of thing, I think that's only a good thing, because I think that wrestling in the area needs to stop. I disagree with Gary O'Neill, because I think that if Lerma's doing that in his own penalty area, then he deserves to have a penalty conceded.
He's not looking at the ball.
He's not looking at the ball. He's only looking at Mitrovic. And whether Mitrovic is wrestling back a bit or not, Lerma is in his own penalty area, the same as Pereira last week. If one's a penalty, this one's a penalty. And if it's a penalty next week against us, we can't complain. If it's a penalty for us next week, the opposition can't complain. All we want to see is consistency.
And that's exactly what Marco Silva has been reiterating for the last couple of weeks in his comments post-match. Let's move on. And I will say, finally, what goes around does come around with VAR. It does balance itself out. And we'll get into the West Ham thing a little bit.
Hope you had a good weekend, West Ham fans. Hope you had a great weekend.
I was with my friend Joe on Sunday night on the pub quiz, and he was not best pleased. And I didn't quite make the point to him that, well, what happened last week against Fulham is the reflection of what happened this week. It's time to preview Villa. I spoke with Dan Bardell from the Villa View, and we exchanged and swapped our BetMate team.
To do our BetMate team. So because you're at home, I'm going to let you go first. Who are you going to plump for in goal?
Okay, I'm going to be loyal, and I'm going to go with Bernd Leno in goals. Fantastic already this season, and I'm backing him to maybe get a clean sheet tomorrow.
Yeah, Villa are quite porous at the moment in front of goal, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put Leno in goal as well. Good signing for Fulham. Was a little bit unfortunate to be phased out at Arsenal, but he's been great for Fulham so far this season. That was a real astute signing. What about your first pick in defence?
I'm going to go with a Villa player in Ezri Konsa. Been really impressed with Konsa since he's joined Aston Villa. I think he's a really good centre-back. And when he was, I think he was at Brentford before, when he was linked away, I really wanted to sign him, but we didn't. He went to Villa, and he's been fantastic, and I look forward to watching him tomorrow.
Yeah, he's picked up his form recently. Did go through a little bit of a sticky patch, but he's been back on form over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and Villa have kept a couple of clean sheets as well, and he's been a big part of that. I'm gonna give a Fulham defender a chance. I still have nightmares about the Fulham fans shouting Ream all the way through the playoff final that you beat us in. I'm gonna put Tim Ream in as my first centre back. He didn't get much of a chance in the Premier League last time, if I remember correctly, but this time round he seems to be the number 1 pick, and he's had a good start to the season. Who are you going for next?
I'm going to go with the goal scorer from Saturday, Issa Diop. Great partnership with Tim Ream, and I expect him to play a part tomorrow. So I'd like to have him at the back because he was very solid for us on Saturday against Bournemouth.
Okay. I am finally going to pick an Aston Villa player, probably Villa's best player over the last month or so. Scored against Forest the other week as well. Ashley Young had a bit of a renaissance in recent weeks. Really good professional Villa hero as well from what he did 10 or so years ago. So yeah, as I say, he's been Villa's best player in recent weeks. So I'm going to put him in. Central midfield for you, Jack?
I'm going to go with the man who just signed a new contract at Aston Villa. That is Douglas Luiz. Great player. Obviously, really pleased on behalf of Villa fans that he signed a contract and didn't go to Arsenal on deadline day. He is a wonderful midfielder and someone who I think is going to be a danger for us tomorrow to look out for.
Yeah, pretty much one of the only chances Villa have got from scoring is Douglas Luiz, direct from a corner at the moment as well. That seems to be one of the few avenues that Villa go down to score a goal at the moment. Saying that, I'm going to pick Jacob Ramsey just because he is Villa's biggest goal threat from central midfield. Scored 6 goals, I think, last season. He's one of Villa's danger men, so I'm going to go for Jacob Ramsey. Off chance he might play further forward, but I imagine he'll be in the number 8 position. Next one for you, Jack.
I can't ignore this. João Palhinha, my vice captain for tomorrow. Absolutely brilliant midfielder. Best signing we've made in a while. One of the best Fulham players I've seen at Fulham for years. And he is, I can't not have him in my team. He's unbelievable.
But might get a yellow card though, mightn't he? He likes a yellow card so far this season, Paulinho, but I'm going for him as well. He scored that wonderful goal from range. I can't remember who he was against, but I remember him scoring a goal from range. And I've got to be honest, I think he's one of the best players in the Premier League so far this season and one of the best summer signings any team's made. So I'm going to go for Paulinho in midfield myself. Your striker, I can imagine who that's going to be with the captaincy.
Yeah, obviously Alexander Mitrovic goes in there. How many goals now? 6 or 7 goals already this season. Defying all the odds from the wider media. We knew of his talents and he's proving it in the Premier League. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm going for him as well. Absolutely no chance. I'm leaving Mitrovic out my side. And then just to mix it up, I'm going to throw in my striker next. I'm going to have to put Ollie Watkins in. overdue a goal. Only scored one goal this season. I say that as if Villa's 7 top goal scorers have all got 1 goal at the moment. So that tells you some of the problems we've had at Villa Park. But I'm going to go to Watkins because he's going to have to score at some point for us. You?
Yep, had the exact same. Ollie Watkins, really good striker. Of course, played against us in the playoff final against Brentford. Didn't quite get the goal that he would have wanted, obviously, and Brentford would have wanted. But he had his chances, to be fair, and Rodak made a couple of saves from him. But for Aston Villa, he's a really good striker, Premier League quality, and he'll be a danger tomorrow, definitely.
Yeah, we'll do our subs offline because the subs aren't massively important. But Jack, quick score prediction before you go.
I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. We drew 2 at the weekend. I can see it happening again. I thought Villa were really unlucky the other day against Chelsea. Kepa made some outstanding saves. And, a lot of Villa fans have said that they want to lose this game for Gerrard to be sacked. I don't think that's the mentality to have.
I completely agree with you.
Exactly. I think Gerrard will obviously want to keep his job and come to the cottage and upset us. But I could see it being a draw. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I'm going to go for... I can't see Villa winning. I want Villa to win, but I can't see Villa winning, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to go for Fulham 1, Aston Villa 0, Mitrovic to score off a set piece.
Welcome back to the Jack and Joe show. Joe, it's time to see your team for the game against Aston Villa. What have you gone with?
Yeah, big pressure after seeing those. I've gone very Fulham biased, I have to say. I've gone with 5 Fulham players in my starting lineup. I've gone with Leno in goal again. Got me a few points last week. Diop, just in case he continues his scoring streak, which would be fantastic. Obviously, a scoring streak of only 1 at the moment, but love to see that continue. Pereira, I think I've got to keep in there as my vice captain as well, as I did for the Bournemouth game because his set pieces are so dangerous. Mitrovic captain, self-explanatory. And I've gone for Willian because I feel like Willian might get picked for this one. I mean, that's what I do anyway. Douglas Luiz and Matty Cash, think are 2 of Villa's brighter players. And obviously, I'm not allowed to predict with completely Fulham 11, sadly, or 7 in this case. But yeah, backing my man Mitrovic again, Pereira and Leno, same as the Bournemouth game. So fingers crossed.
Brilliant stuff. And as you can see at the bottom, if you can get £5 in free bets upon sign up, just use the code Fulhamish5 and that will be sorted for you. Right. So Aston Villa at home. It's a huge game. We sort of touched on it earlier, but what would your 11 be, and then a score prediction?
So my 11 would be, and everything I'm saying now I've alluded to earlier, and I'm assuming for the sake of this that Tete's not back, because if he is, he starts. Leno in goal, back 4 from right to left of Mbabu, Diop, Tosin, and Robinson. I'm not sure if Diop and Tosin would swap, because obviously Diop played on the right. Tosin normally plays on the right this and last season, so not sure what will happen there. If they did it like Forest, then Diop would be next to Robinson rather than Mbabu. People might not like that I've said Mbabu, because I know that he gets a lot of hate, and he was rubbish against Newcastle and in a couple of his other cameos, but I think we've got a right back on the bench. We've got to use him, and I think he's had to kick up the arse he needs now to know what is expected. Midfield, I think I'm going to stick with the 3 reluctantly. I would like to see Kearney involved, but as I said earlier, I'm not sure that he can be from the start. So Polinia, Reed and Pereira. On the left-hand side, I would go with Willian. On the right-hand side, I would push forward Bobby Reed and Mitrovic in the middle.
Okay. I am similar. Rodak. Leno. I would put Mbabu back in, and we need a natural right back. Diop, Ream. I think Ream will just keep his place.
Yeah.
And Robinson, Paulinho, Reed, Pereira, and then left Willian, up front Mitrovic, right Harry Wilson.
Yeah, no, can't argue.
I know
with
he's
that,
probably not ready, but I want him to start. He's such a good player. Yeah. And a score prediction, Joe. It's a huge game on Thursday.
It's a huge game. It's one that I do think we need to win. Obviously, not the complete end of the world if we don't, but I do think we need to win it to really put ourselves in a good position again. We're in a decent position right now, but a good position. I'm going to go for the same scoreline that I went with on Saturday, which is 2-1 to Fulham. I think it will be a really nervy game because it's big for Villa as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention this. A lot of Villa fans want Gerrard to lose this game so he gets the sack, which I think is an extraordinary mentality to have, really, especially when you're struggling down in 16th place. I can't put my finger on a score prediction. I think Villa will score. I think Fulham will score. Therefore, you know what? I'm going to go with another 2-2 draw.
Okay.
And I want to win. We have to win, really. And Villa have to as well. I think it will be quite a similar game. Just hopefully we don't concede so early. And I don't know. I can see some goals in this. Villa actually played really well the other day against Chelsea. They created a lot of chances. And if it wasn't for a Kepa masterclass, it could have been a completely different result. Joe, very quickly, finally, some of the results of the weekend, most of them went our way outside of Fulham v Bournemouth. And obviously West Ham having a hugely controversial goal against them with Bowen and the referee and the Kyle Walker-Peters on the pitch.
Yeah.
Any other results that stood out to you? Leicester 0, Palace 0. I was yelling goal in my head.
Yeah. That one, but also the one for me was definitely Wolves Forest, which kicked off at the same time, because I really think these are two teams that are so poor in terms of goal scoring. And I think it proved it entirely. 2 penalties in the match, one of them converted, one of them not. Other than that, really nothing to separate them at all. Forest look poor. We know that. It's not news, but we know that Wolves are not prolific either. And I really do think unless they sort out this goals problem, they're going to stay down there. They haven't appointed their new manager yet. There's rumours that it could be the guy from Ajax now. Rumours just circulating. We just don't know. But for me, that was a key result because I think that was an okay result for us. I think that if you keep that current bottom 3 down there, that's ideal. So a draw would have been the perfect result. We've still got a little cushion. And so I think the bottom 3 now, who's it? Southampton and Leicester and Forest. Midlands team's doing very well, of course, with Wolves just above.
And Villa as well.
And Villa. Hopefully I haven't jinxed anything there, touch wood. Chris Wood. I think that was a key result. And as you say, the Leicester Palace game was so poor. Palace, I don't think will be down there. I've said that to you before, but they don't look fantastic. And really not much spark in that team, which surprised me when they've got some players like Eze, Elise, Zaha can create moments of magic out of nowhere. Really surprised me how toothless they looked. Don't want to get into a toothless tangent again, but against one of the worst defences the worst defence in the league so far, I was really shocked.
I'm actually going to Crystal Palace v Wolves tonight, and it's a really fascinating game because personally I want it to be a draw. And Wolves have failed to score more than 1 goal in a game this season. Palace haven't quite got going yet. They beat Leeds, and then they drew to Leicester. They do look the strongest out of that sort of bottom half team, out of those teams. Forest go tonight to Brighton and Hove Albion. That's a huge game. There's some big games. Also, just from the weekend, quickly, Arsenal getting the weirdest 1-0 win you'll ever see against Leeds.
Such a weird game. Yeah.
Leeds missed a pen, the whole VAR power cut. It was extraordinary. And of course, we played Leeds on Sunday. We won't actually get to speak until, I suppose, next Wednesday when we will preview our next game, which is Everton at home.
Yeah.
So we can't really touch on that because obviously the Leeds, the Villa game hasn't happened yet. Yeah. But those Leeds fans are going to be up for it. It's going to be a scary one. I'm actually going to be in the crowd this time, which is really exciting. Yeah. And just quickly your thoughts on maybe how that would go.
Yeah, sure. I think it'll be I watched the Leeds Arsenal game, and first half Leeds were okay, but second half Leeds were very good and did everything other than score the goal. Really had Arsenal pinned back in their own box, let alone half. And with better finishing from Bamford, they would have got a draw. Not just in terms of the penalty, he had a few chances when he went clean through on goal as well. I think it's going to be a really tough game, that one, and that is one where I would 100% take a point. And think that a point would be a good result because, Ellen Road can become a bit of a cauldron, nasty atmosphere to play in. And I do fear for us when we have, teams throwing stuff at us. I'm not sure we can withstand the pressure for too long. Really tough game. So if we could win this one against Villa and draw with Leeds, that would be ideal because that Everton game, which we'll preview next week, is not an easy one either.
No, not at all. I can't even remember Everton's result the weekend. Oh, they lost to Spurs.
They lost to Spurs, yeah.
But yeah, Sinisterra is someone I'm not really looking forward to facing.
No,
he just looks scary.
Yeah, and a scary name. I was saying this on the weekend. That is a really scary, sinister name. I would say. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Leeds away because it's just a good away to do. We haven't had it in a while. With fans, we haven't had it in a while.
Yeah.
Last 2 times we've been there has been behind closed doors. Last time we went there, we drew 0-0, and Lucas Piazon broke his leg, and I threw up before the games. I didn't really get to consume the game as I wanted to because I'd had way too much to drink. Joe Sansom, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and enjoy the game on Villa. A Thursday night. I don't think we'd be talking about Thursday night football back at the Cottage just yet. Leave that till next year, but happy days.
We need to be on a decent amount of points going to the World Cup, as it is fast approaching. The World Cup is very, very close. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support of BetMate, our sponsor for this video. You've been watching the Jack and Joe show. Thanks so much for watching. And come on, Fulham.